Speaking of wide receivers who are disgruntled, Brandon Aiyuk hasn't got the extension, didn't get traded. Doesn't seem like he's going to be playing for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, his twin, or so he said. What do you think is next for Brandon Aiyuk?
It's got to be a deal. If their plan is to, you know what, we'll make him play on the 5th-year option. I hate that plan. So you're going to have some guy, some super team leader, vital cog on your team stewing in the corner of the locker room because you didn't break him off and you making him play out the deal all the way. I think you got to get him signed, and you got to get him signed, sometime well before the start of camp. I mean, that's the other thing. You can't do what you did the last 2 years. Didn't work with Bosa, didn't work with Debo. You can't wait to the last second. You need, it's one thing for Bosa, who's a pass rusher in a wide 9, get up the field, very simple scheme. It's a totally different deal for your receiver, who has to be in lockstep with the quarterback. Offensive football is all about, cohesion. You don't want an offensive player sitting out all of camp and signing 5 days before the opener. So I hope their plan is to get it done well before the deadline.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of making him sit for the year and delaying it, because I think that's like one of those things where, you tell them, no, that's not how it works. And there's always a lot of, you don't want to risk disharmony in your locker room with one of your best players. Not worth it.
It seems to me, and I have no sources on the subject, but it seems to me like the 49ers sort of came to the conclusion that it would be irresponsible to spend big money on 2 wide receivers, which is true. I don't think not many teams do it. They're very expensive, and you don't throw the ball enough to justify it. So I think they flirted with the idea of trading Aiyuk, but came to the conclusion that trading Debo would make more sense because Ayuk's better and younger and still ascending, and Debo isn't. So if they want to keep Aiyuk and trade Debo, that would make sense. Makes sense to me.
If they have to moved him Debo this weekend, now
they didn't do it.
I know, but does it make sense now to move Debo? Just the only way it makes sense is if you're getting back, a difference-making player at a position that you have a greater need. Somebody's starting tackle. I can't even picture who would be interested. Jacksonville got Brian Thomas, right? So they're Brian Thomas Jr. So they've taken care of their receiver need. I guess. Maybe
Buffalo needs a receiver. I don't understand what Buffalo did this offseason. I just don't get it.
Didn't Buffalo get a receiver? They got Keon Coleman. I don't know if that's good enough receiver. But what are these teams offering? Are you going to offer a player? I mean, Surtain would make a lot of sense. Heck, they could definitely use a number 1 corner. They could definitely use another D lineman, an offensive tackle. Trade him to Jacksonville for Walker Little and their 3rd round pick next year or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what, to me, that's also, I got to think that they want to keep Debo and just load up this year and just try to, have all their playmakers. But it doesn't seem the way they drafted receivers here makes you think that he could be gone.
I just don't think he's a great fit for the Niners. He's a home run receiver. He should play with someone like Josh Allen. He doesn't need to be running square ins all the time like he does here. But if that's another reason, I don't like drafting wide receivers in round 1. You get in these situations where it's like, he went to a Pro Bowl. Should we give him $30 million a year? Yeah, it's what the market says they're worth. Sorry. So I kind of like what Pittsburgh does. Draft him in round 2 and round 3 and catch and release. 1 contract each. No extensions. They're too expensive. Spend your money elsewhere.
Plus, it's Belichick said it the other day with McAfee. He's like, quarterbacks and wide receivers in round 1 are like a 50-50 proposition. So it's 50-50 whether the guy's going to be good or not. And then you're right. After that, do you want to give him a second contract?
Yeah, that's so expensive. And you have to pay top dollar if they're remotely good. You pay them like they're Hall of Famers. I don't like it. I'd rather take those. And quarterbacks are hard to find, but wide receivers, there's always good ones in round 2, round 3. You got Cowan in round 4.
Yeah. Especially now that, you've got teams throughout college football and every conference running the spread.
Yep.
So you've got more and more receivers. I mean, this has now been 3 drafts, maybe 4 drafts in a row where you could say one of the themes was, man, it's loaded at wide receiver.
Mhm.
I mean, it's loaded at wide receiver almost every year.
What's interesting too is like the first 14 picks were offense.
Right.
That's the future of the league. Like what's going to happen is these teams, quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive tackle, those positions are going to get so expensive that you're not going to be able to give extensions to players at other positions. So you'll have a bunch of defensive players on rookie deals, running backs on rookie deals, and there's going to be a quarterback making $100 million a year in like 5 years. Watch.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. I can't wait. So you'll have 2 different teams. You'll have like the little core of guys who are billionaires, like the 5 billionaires on your team, and a bunch of guys who are fresh out of college trying to help out. That'll be the NFL. Can't wait.
The key in the NFL is you can't pay good players great money. If you pay good players great money, you're essentially beating yourself.
And that's the question the Niners have to ask with Aiyuk.
That is a big one.
Yeah.
Or is he a great player that's just been underutilized?
Yeah, that's what I think he is. But if he's underutilized, is he really a great player on your team? Can he produce great results on your team? I don't know.
I'd love to know how Shanahan feels about his wide receiver core, just period, because we know Shanahan loves Debo.
Yep.
So how does he view Debo this year? Would he move Debo in the springtime for a player or, God forbid, picks that he can't, win with this year? I don't know. That seems like a loss to me.
I think he thinks Debo at his peak was maybe the best Z receiver he ever coached. But when it comes to X receivers, I think he has really high standards. And Aiyuk's really good, but he's not Julio Jones. He's not Andre Johnson. And Kyle coached both of those guys. So I could see Kyle being a little hesitant to pay Aiyuk all this money, considering he's not truly, truly off the charts in any way like those two were.
Well, I'll say this. There was a lot of concern that there were some people very concerned they would move Aiyuk, other people concerned that they wouldn't. I just think that, and I said it before the draft, if they moved Aiyuk and did not get back a great player, they would take a dramatic step back. So in some ways, the fact that they did not move Aiyuk is a positive for, where they sit in the NFC or where they sit in the Super Bowl pecking order. Because if they had done the Buckner Kinlaw deal again, they would no longer be Super Bowl contenders. So in a way, I'm kind of glad they didn't move Aiyuk, because I mean, what if they had moved Aiyuk for a pick and used it on a player that was underwhelming? Now you've lost,
you're in trouble.
A difference-making guy in the perimeter, and you're not the same team. So